We're over halfway for attendees. So I'd say if we give it another couple of minutes, and then maybe Eric, if you'd like to welcome everyone to our April town hall, I suppose.
Yes, for which we have a very distinguished guest in the person of Tad Zurlinden, the CEO of the European Association, which is, by the way, for those who are not aware, a founding member of our Belgian association a few years ago. Thank you, Tad, for joining us today.
I almost didn't make it, I seem to remember, on that day, because I missed I left home without my passport. And I had to go back and get my passport and then go back and catch a flight. And by some miracle, I got there just in time.
Yeah, well, that's what miracles are made for.
Well, probably, I probably booked the flight far too early in the first place.
Okay. How many people are we supposed to have, Fiona?
I believe 20, and we're at 13. So I think there's an awful lot of things that the ABRA board has been busy with over the last year, but EuRA has perhaps been even more active, and we'd love to hear about what's happening across the pond.
Yeah, what pond? Oh, that's tomorrow.
That's the bigger pond.
That's the bigger pond. No, the puddle, you mean?
The puddle, yes.
Unless, of course, that as a result of Brexit, we've floated somewhere out into the mid-Atlantic, which I hadn't noticed.
I don't think anybody would at the moment. We're all, you know, travel is at a standstill, really.
Yeah.
So it'll be an adventure next time any of us hops on a plane to see how far away we have drifted.
But Tad, if you permit me the joke, maybe Scotland will break from the island and kind of drift towards mainland Europe. Haven't I heard about that?
That would be potentially an even, well, I mean, one disaster after another, please. It's crazy. The whole notion of it is crazy. The whole notion of Brexit was crazy, but you know, not much one can do about it now.
How are you actually finding it now that we're? I suppose it's actually happened. It's come through. How are you coping with it?
Just get on with life. I mean, I suppose if I was exporting livestock, I might have different things to say, but it doesn't really affect the running of an international association or a domestic association. It's not really affecting us at all. We just find out what happens when we do start to try and do stuff, see what has any effects on how we deal with hotels and such like. I don't know. I have no idea. It's all a bit of a mystery, but by the time that we end up dealing with a hotel, hopefully everyone will have calmed down and things will have settled and will be back to a bit more normal. I mean, I'm all right. I can just get my Swiss passport out and come across, no problem.
Tad, does EuRA get a lot of questions from its relocation members surrounding professional travel and moves between the UK and the EU in the New Deal?
Not so far. You know, I think Alistair Murray would probably be better placed to answer that question because he's actually dealing with stuff like that. We don't really deal with that. We're dealing with the members. We're dealing with what they need, rather than what their customers need. It's very different.
I can add to what Tad says. I don't know a lot of you on the call, but I thought I'd just listen in the background. But hello, everybody. I'm on the EuRA board, so know Tad very well. I'm based in the UK. But yeah, I think at the moment, immigration companies in the UK are absolutely inundated and hiring teams of people specifically to deal with Brexit inquiries. So mainly on a consultancy basis, they're bringing in a huge number of people to answer all the questions, because UK-based companies have been happily moving people across Europe with no problem at all, and now need to know whether there's a visa required or a permit required. So it's, yeah, if you're an immigration company in the UK, it's a particularly busy time for you, and will undoubtedly have an impact on all the DSPs in the UK as well.
Thank you, Alistair.
No problem.
Okay, Fiona, I think we can start now, because well, otherwise we will not respect the timing. So let's start for the one that we're on time.
Absolutely. Yes, like I was saying, actually, Tad, you've been very active on behalf of your members, because what are the kind of issues that they've come to you with over the last year? Perhaps that's a good starting point.
Oh, issues. Well, I mean,
or concerns,
well,
maybe a better choice of words.
At the very beginning, I think there was obviously an element of confusion, what's going on here, and I think to a certain extent, people were thinking about what was happening around them, and not so much the fact that it was actually happening to everybody everywhere. And they were very concerned about what was going on in their country, and we got one or two people actually said, why hasn't EuRA contacted us? But in a way, it was like, well, we're dealing with our own problems where we are, and you're dealing with your problems. But the fact is that we decided we had to do something in order to help members, in order to help them get through stuff. And this whole thing about opening the EuRA training, the MIM, up for free was actually an absolutely genius idea. It was a fantastic thing to do for the members. It was, Dominic and I were on a walk, something that we do every day these days, because we don't go very far. The last aeroplane I got off was coming back from Seville, having negotiated the cancellation of the conference on March the 13th last year, which is now on, I think Seville is now on version 4.1, because we've moved it, it's moved forward the whole time. But the training thing has been excellent, and I think we're thinking that we may extend it one more month, because of the fact that the world hasn't really completely settled down. Because it gave members the opportunity to get their employees, to give them something to do. And I can reveal, because I calculated this morning, that the total amount of effectively benefit that we gave EuRA members globally since we started offering free training, in other words, we were not charging the 50 euros for the certification and the test at the end. If that was properly monetized, I would have a new car and more, because it was in actual fact 114,700 euros. Now, I don't believe for one second that had the situation been different, we would have made that kind of money out of training. Probably a minute fraction of it, but I think that we showed a commitment to the members to help them to work their way through this thing, and in many respects, a lot of them were able to give their employees stuff to do that will improve their delivery of service to their clients. So this is one thing that I think has been, or was, absolutely it's a fantastic idea. The other thing which we started doing very early on, and I'm sure some of you have watched them, and maybe some of you have even been involved in them, but the regular interviews to begin with about how people were dealing with this and that. And I remember that one of the early on, Dominic interviewed somebody in Hong Kong, and at the time, you know, come April, whatever it was, April, May last year, Hong Kong was coming out of the pandemic. Things were getting better, things were freeing up, life was getting back to normal, just before, you know, COVID-19 came back and slapped them in the face again. So it was very interesting to see how this, what people had to say about how it was affecting them in their particular country. And I think probably would have given solace to the people who are feeling a bit sorry for themselves in other countries, to realize that, you know, basically the entire world was in the same situation and people were struggling. Some were in better positions than others. I think really that in terms of Europe, organizations were doing a lot better than in other parts of the world where they got no assistance whatsoever. And you know, basically they were just left to try and keep going. So that the training thing, the interviews, which then developed into briefings to help people and provide more information for people's businesses, just effectively has been our way of supporting the members. And we've been hard at it. I mean, we really, it's like, it's extraordinary. Not left the house, but not stopped working. I think the furthest I've been is about 50 miles from home. I mean, it's, sorry, 80 kilometers from home, which was rare. And, you know, I'm sure you all have the same, you've all felt the same way about, oh, I'm going to the supermarket, great. You know, an adventure, I'm doing something different. Or I'm going to buy fuel for my car. So all these funny little things. And I don't know about many of you, but on one of my journeys, well, now that my mother has started being at home more, I mentioned earlier she'd been with us a lot, I took her home a couple of weeks ago, and of course, over lunch, I was fiddling with my phone. And of course, what did I do? I got halfway home and realized I'd left my telephone on her dining room table. So I went back and collected it. And someone said to me afterwards, we've all forgotten how to leave home. We forget, we don't think of, you know, you don't, what, do you carry your wallet around the house? No. You know, you have to actually remember to pick things up. So this, we've all been like this. And, but you know, trying to keep some sort of semblance of order by looking after the membership is something that's been very important to us. The other thing, which I know that you want me to talk about, Fiona, is what the ARP, which is the Association of Relocation Professionals, which is the UK association, has been up to. We started out a year ago, totally different way of dealing with things with the ARP. We basically, what could we possibly do for our members in the UK? And it struck me at the very beginning that what we should be doing is going to the government and saying, help. There was a group of UK members who put together a sort of support group, and they were talking about how we're going to get around. This was very, very early on. It was before furlough came in and the government support came in. Everyone was worrying. So I sent a letter round to all the ARP members. I know it was the 4th of April because I looked it up the other day, and I sent this letter, an individual letter around saying, this is what we want you to do. Get in touch with your MP, tell them we need the help here, see what they'll come up with. And basically, I then got into conversation with this group, and we started saying, well, we really need to lobby government, but we didn't know how to do it. And we were scratching our heads. And then one of the people involved, Simon Johnston, who's actually the chairman of the ARP, he's also the chairman of TIR, or was the chair of TIR. He knew a guy called, is a UK politician called Lembit Opik, who used to be a member of parliament years ago, and he's now a lobbyist, and he brought us together. and we started talking with Lembit back in November, and he started talking in a language that I didn't really understand. I don't know my way around the Houses of Parliament, but he started talking about putting questions to the various ministries within government, and he also talked about creating an all-party political group for relocation, which I was like, well, what does this mean? But what it means is that if we have an all-party political group, we've got more traction to get people to help us to get answers from government ministers. So this was really exciting. So yes, we're going to go and do this, and we're going to try and do this, but we needed members of Parliament to support this. So yet again, another letter went out to all the members saying, can you write to your local member of Parliament and get them to support this thing and commit to it? And we got an inkling from one MP that he would like to be involved in this. Anyway, cut a long story short, he agreed to be the chairman of this group, and we found another 6 members of Parliament. So we had 7 members of Parliament, which is more than enough to constitute this all-party political group, of which there are over 700, apparently. But being as though there's 600 and something MPs, that's, you know, that seems reasonable. But the other interesting thing about these groups is the moment there's an election, they're dissolved and you have to start all over again. So hopefully we can keep it going for a while before and get something done before we get dissolved. So anyway, having got all these people together, we arranged, because obviously due to the pandemic, we were able to do our launch by Zoom. And we agreed on a date, and it was going to be the 15th or the 16th of March. We got really excited about it. I mean, got everyone together. And then we were told by the powers that be in Westminster that we couldn't hold it on the 16th of March. Why, we said? Because Parliament is in recess. They've all gone home for Easter. So it's like, oh, great, brilliant. So we put it off, and in fact, our launch took place last Thursday, and it's actually on YouTube, and you can see it, and it's about 20 minutes, and it went incredibly well. And this fella who's acting as the chairman, Sir Robert Sims, was very gracious, and he asked everybody present why they wanted to do this. And of course, the issues that we want to deal with are things like immigration, as mentioned earlier. In the UK, there is a limit on the benefit an employee can receive without tax, which was set in 1992, and you can receive £8,000 worth of benefit, about 10,000 euros worth of benefit in terms of home search, removals, the cost of, you know, the estate, the real estate, that kind of thing. And of course, if you're moving somebody who is way up the scale, that move is going to cost you 25,000, 30,000, not 8. So what employers were doing were they were grossing up. In other words, they were giving the employee 30,000, and then they were paying the tax on the 22,000 and the tax on the tax, which they basically meant that a £30,000 move was costing nearer £50,000. This tax, this limit of 8,000 has not changed in nearly 30 years, and is not fit for purpose. So that's one thing we're going to go after and try and get changed. We've also already had a meeting with the Department of International Trade, because we want to line ourselves up with them, because obviously the Department of International Trade in this country, it's not just people coming in, it's people going out. And obviously the members of the ARP, although they operate in the UK, work with people outside the UK if they're moving people out. So I've just completed a form to go on there. They have a a directory, which basically says we can deal with the world. We can help people move anyway, wherever they like. We know somebody who can. So this is another thing. It's to get us recognized, and we're working toward hopefully being in a situation where the government actually says they've got a query relating to relocation, so they come to us. We've done quite a lot of research. We worked out that the 120 or so members of the ARP, which doesn't sound like that many people, actually contribute to in excess of 7 to 8 billion pounds to the UK economy, because it's not just that a company charges €2,500, €3,000 for a home sale or a settling in service or whatever it might be. It's the fact that the person they're bringing in works for a company that makes this much money and pays this much tax, and they pay that much tax, and they buy this many goods. So it's a powerful argument to show that we are absolutely vitally important. The other thing, and this will really please ABRA members, because I know that you had awful problems with the estate agent or the real estate group, we suddenly had this revelation. It's so stupid, it's ridiculous. We, the relocation industry, is the largest customer of the real estate industry. Because if we're moving, if the industry is moving 10, 20, 30,000 people a year, who else does that? Normally, a real estate agent has a client who is moving a person. So this was an absolute revelation. And also that age-old thing of being termed or being considered to be basically an estate agent goes out the window, because we're not. We can actually show that we're not. And again, it's something that I think needs, it's a problem that exists everywhere, certainly in Europe, because constantly being associated with real estate, simply because one of the activities that you're involved with is real estate. So this is this exercise in trying to get relocation recognition has resulted in us realizing that we are completely separate. We are totally we're our own organization, we're our own industry, and no one's going to tell us any different anymore. So we've got some way. We've got our all-party parliamentary group up and running. Now we've got to do something with it. But there are other things. In fact, Alistair Murray mentioned something the other day, which was to influence government to make good laws, to ensure that landlords treat people fairly, to ensure that tenants are treated right, that kind of thing. And so basically, we need to be talking to the ministries relating to trade and industry, ministries relating to finance, ministries relating to immigration, the Home Office, and ministries relating to how the property industry is regulated and what goes on. So this is a revelation. After 35 years of the ARP, this is really coming of age in a hurry. And it's absolutely amazing. So that's that topic, as it were. The other thing which is quite exciting is that tomorrow and Thursday are the inaugural conference or summit of WECAN. If you don't know what that is the worldwide ERC, EuRA, and the Canadian Employee Relocation Council Association Network, WECAN, coming together for the first time to run a virtual event about mobility across the pond. And we've got 4 sessions, and it starts UK time 4 o'clock, Europe time 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, 2.5 hours each day. And I believe it will be the start of a much more or a much better relationship between the associations, because we do sort of need each other. And we need to help each other, and we need to help the world get out of this pandemic. We need to, you know, relocation can cure the world, absolutely. People need to get mobile. You know, working from home is all very fine, but being employed by an American company and working in France, it kind of works in a pandemic, but it shouldn't work. You know, people need to be in places. It depends. It sort of depends. It depends on kind of what job they're doing. But the fact is that there is a lot of life in this industry, and there are a lot more people out there who need to take advantage of what we can offer. That's me.
Absolutely. No, I thank you, Tad. I couldn't agree with you more. I think we're all champing at the bit to start up life again, and these relationships are hugely important between associations, because actually I know for us from the side of ABRA, the all-party political group, I'm going to have to pick your brain about that later, because we're currently trying to get hold of the right people for the recognition of foreign driving licenses and the exchange process, and it's sort of this ongoing thing that it's been going for years, I suppose, and like you say, as soon as elections happen, you know, your contact person disappears and you start from zero again, and it becomes a bit disheartening after a while. So actually your advice on how to set up an all-party political group, I think, would be invaluable, because we're dealing...
I think that'll sort of depend on how your government works, but they must have a similar sort of thing where they have interest groups. There must be a banking interest group of some description.
I'd presume, yeah.
Mr. ING might be able to answer that question.
There may very well be, but of course there is the Federation of the banking industry in Belgium too. And the individual banks give a lot of responsibility to that federation to organize their contact, information, lobby work, whatever you call it. But I think there should not be a problem to try out and to reach out to people in the Belgian Parliament that you may know, and ask them and say, hey, we have this Association of Belgian Relocator Agents. It's very important for international mobility. As such, it's very important for international trade and investment. As Belgium is a small country, it's a very open economy. Trade and international investment are very important to Belgium. So are you willing, together with some other people in Parliament, to create a kind of a group to better understand what's happening in that field? I do not know many politicians myself on the personal side, but if somebody does, that's the way you could fish to see if there is any interest. But possibly yes, but you've heard me saying I was making the international mobility a bit bigger by making the reference to trade and investment. I think that trade and investment will make them more interested than just the international moves.
Or international driving licenses. They won't.
And well, complexity for us is that we already have 7 parliaments. So it might need to know a lot of people before gathering a group that could be represented in each of these parliaments.
Well, the way it kind of worked, the way we had to work it was, we had to get members to contact their local member of parliament. So I, of course, contacted mine, who was terribly busy, because she's the Minister for Public Health. Well, during a pandemic, I suppose she would be quite busy. but other people did the same. And that's how we got our 7 MPs. But you had to be their constituent in order to get them to listen. However, once you've got the thing going, if other people show interest in it, they can join the group. And if they talk to others, hopefully we'll manage to get some traction and get a few more people. And I feel sure that we'll get a few more MPs interested, because we keep trying to get members to write to them. So it may well be that you need to go down a similar route, but I don't know, you might have several different representatives you need to write to. With your 7 parliaments, it seems excessive for a relatively small country.
Oh yes, and the thing is, just to make it easier, is that some of the topics where our industry is basically is joining depends from different parliaments, because some subjects are federal and some subjects are regional, like real estate or you know, international commerce, or so. That's so. But can't hurt thinking about it, and first checking at which level we should try
I'd go for the top.
parliament members.
Go to the top. Don't bother with anything else. Start at the top. They might. I've no idea. You know, we've done this. I'm hoping it's going to work. And we'll see where we go from here, really. But we've got this far, which in 5 months is pretty damn good.
Yes, very good, and especially in such a complicated environment that we currently have.
Yeah, but lucky for us, aren't we all lucky Zoom exists?
I have another question, if I may.
Yeah.
How did you succeed in making that a top priority? The problems faced by
I can't really answer that question. It sort of happened. It evolved. We couldn't have meetings, because obviously everyone was told to stay at home. Obviously we could run seminars and stuff like that, but I think there was no real call for that at the time, and I just thought we had to do something, and that it sort of rolled forward, and one thing led to another, and another thing led to something else, and then eventually, suddenly, we had this fellow Lembit Opik, who was there working with us, and I told a number of people that we were going to do this, and they sort of went, "It's going to cost you a fortune. Good luck with that one," because lobbyists, you know, are renowned for being incredibly expensive. Well, not this one. He's very, 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 very good, and he is not greedy, and that's brilliant. And he continues to keep producing stuff. And we took things like, we wrote a paper on how the ARP can work with the government over Brexit, how the ARP can work with government over COVID-19. We were talking about the government empowering relocation companies to be responsible for their relocatees, and thus ensuring that they didn't end up being holed up in hotels for 10 days, that kind of thing. The fact is that as time went by, we needed to get this group going before we could enact some of those things. But we had all these ideas that we were going to push forward, but now we've moved on to others. And we can, as an association, we can work with the government in the best interests of the UK, in the same way as you can do the same thing for Belgium. And the French could do the same for France, and the Swiss could do the same thing in Switzerland, where I believe Switzerland's got an even bigger problem because it's got 26 different governments.
That's right.
Yeah.
And even more languages than us.
And even more languages than you, exactly. but you know, I can't answer the question, how did you get there? Because it just happened. It was the right moment at the right time in the right place, and it happened. And it's really exciting and interesting and quite bizarre to be. And I was actually quite nervous about attending a parliamentary meeting, even though I sent out the Zoom invites. You know, it was quite bizarre. But anyway, it went very well. It's there to be seen if anyone wants to see it. And there's more on it on Friday if anybody's interested.
Good, good. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Tad.
Eric, in Belgium, we might try to reach out to the 3 regional trade and investment bodies. We could try to reach out to FIT, to AWEX, and to Brussels Export. If I can be of use in any way there, because Tad says, I don't know how it happens, but what I do know is that because he took an initiative. And if we don't take an initiative, we won't get anywhere.
No. I will suggest Fiona to take note and put that on the agenda of the next ABRA board meeting.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think you're right, Tad. We should just shoot for the stars and go for industry recognition in that respect, and then hopefully everything else just follows on from there.
I don't. But you know, I suppose it was just this year. So bizarre. What do we do? Where do we go? How do we go from here? And then the other thing is that endless virtual things. We've all got to a point where we've probably had enough. Thank you very much. And we want to get together. I mean, you know, EuRA is hoping, fingers crossed and all the rest of it, to run an event, and a very glamorous, at Heathrow Airport in September, if we can. And the reason we want to do it at Heathrow Airport is that if people can come and can fly in, it makes it easy for them to come in and out. It's only, it wouldn't be a massive thing. It would just be a gathering, but it would be an opportunity for people who desperately want to be with other people to get together. So, you know, if we can do it, we will. It'll be sort of lastminute.com, but you never know. We might manage to put it off. And if that doesn't work, we'll do something at Christmas, you know, because of the, and of course, Seville next year, which, you know, we will keep our fingers crossed for that one. That was surreal, that whole Seville thing, absolutely surreal. The most surreal thing of all was I looked at the sales guy, because we're running the conferences in the Seville, the Melia in Seville. And I just looked at him and I said, I'm afraid this is history repeating itself. And he looked at me and he said, yes, I know, because the last time we had to roll over a conference was when the volcano erupted in Iceland back in 2010 or whatever it was. And we were in the Grand Melia in Palma de Mallorca. So it's happened twice. I think we're going to, I'm a bit worried about using a Melia ever again.
Well. I remember we said we would never do an island again, and we still went to Malta. So
well, we still went to Malta. Yes, yes. Malta's not an island, though; it's a country. But the rate we're going, we're not going to do. Oh, no. Peninsulas are off.
Okay. Okay, thank you really, Tad, for your very kind participation today. I don't know if any of you has any question left for our speaker. Otherwise, we will let him go back to his busy schedule and probably to another Zoom meeting, and you know, and wish him good luck for all the upcoming EuRA events, and hoping to see him, you know, a little closer than just the corner of my screen.
Well, until then, we've got tomorrow and Thursday's event, which is the WECAN.
Yeah, and then we've got the EuRA Spring Summit, which is
May 10 to 14.
Yeah. That's about 2 weeks. That's an hour and a half a day, something. One session and one what do you call it? I forgot the word. I've completely forgotten.
Plenary session and a work group?
No.
Working?
No. Ignite.
Ignite.
Yeah.
Oh, excellent. I like those.
Yeah, quite interesting to be done virtually, as we said. We will see. It's from the 10th to the 21st, actually, so it's 5 days and then 5 days. Should be quite fun. So.
And people can just sign up on the EuRA website, can't they?
Yeah. If you're registered for Seville, it's free.
Lovely. And if not?
There's a small charge. Don't ask
because...
me. I'm just the CEO. I don't know anything about prices.
Fair enough.
I do know about certain prices, but anyway.
Yeah, no. It's,
and I've got to say that, you know, we wouldn't be sitting here right today without, you know, members have supported us because they have continued to pay their subscriptions, and that has for some of them been quite difficult. You know, some people have reported that they've done okay in the last 12 months. Some people have had a terrible time, and it's to do with, I suppose, where you are, what your business is, what your business model is. But people have continued, and we haven't lost. We've lost a few members where they've been bought by other members, and we've lost, think about 5, and that's about it. Which, out of 500, is not bad. And we've continued to gain members.
That's very important.
That's
absolutely. I must say, I'm actually pleasantly surprised by, for us as well. We've lost 1 or 2 members this year, but we've had a fair few applications for new memberships as well, and I think that's really positive. It's showing that people are looking forward and looking towards the future rather than, you know, getting stuck in current status quo.
I think people want to belong as well. They want to be part of something. When they're stuck at home, you know, on their Zoom, they want to be able to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then we can get dressed up for a Zoom rather than just the supermarket. You know, it's
great.
But indeed, yeah, thank you, Tad, and Alistair as well. Thank you for joining us. It's been good to catch up. I think for us, our next meeting is in May, which is the AGM and member meeting. And we are hoping to have, we're looking for somebody who can speak on the vaccination program for expats, because there seems to be a bit of unclarity as to how people are being called up and how it works with the list. So we're hoping to find an expert to speak on that for June. But as you can imagine, these experts are rather busy currently. So we shall have to keep you posted, and otherwise we reconvene in September, hopefully in person. And yeah.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining, and I wish you a pleasant rest of the day.
Bye-bye for now. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.